Spirit Sports Consultants presents our weekly NFL picks.
Welcome to our NFL Week 1 deep dive and best bet analysis. We've got some great games this week. We got the Ravens and the Bills. We got the kickoff special with the Cowboys and the Eagles, and a great game with the Rams and the Texans. So let's get to the games. And the NFL season kicks off on the Thursday night special when the Eagles host the Cowboys. Should be a great divisional match. When we had initially looked at this, we were bullish on the Cowboys. We're not Cowboys fans here, but we thought as a division rival, they might be able to slow down Saquon a little bit, and maybe having added George Pickens to go along with CeeDee Lamb, maybe they can exploit some of that Eagles secondary, a team that's lost a few players in there. Looking at it closer, we think the Eagles are the team to watch here. When we looked at this game initially, we thought the Cowboys had a great chance to do well as a division road underdog and hold the Eagles down. But as we're looking at the injuries mount up in training camp, the one that concerns us the most is Tyler Guyton, left tackle. That's a huge loss. When you're already going up against Vic Fangio's defense, he's going to smell weakness right there, smell blood in the water, and I guarantee you attack on that side. We do like what the Cowboys have on offense with Lamb and Pickens, but then we have to wonder if we're going to be critical. That's going to be the first game, right? Are they going to be sharp? Or are they going to be? They're not going to be in midseason form and going up against that pass defense of the Eagles. So we're going to reverse our pick here. Now we think the Eagles will be able to cover that spread. We like them minus the 6.5 as opposed to our earlier pick. We thought the Cowboys could cover. Not now. Another risk for the Cowboys we're following is the Micah Parsons contract dispute. We're recording this in early August. Will he still be on the team? Will they re-sign him? Question to be answered. So for this game, we actually have two best bets we're looking at. We like the Eagles, as we just said, minus 6.5. If it's 7, try to get it down off that number. And the over, we like 46.5. Keep it under that 47 number. And now for the viewer question of the week. Let us know in the comments and give us the reason why. Which NFL team do you absolutely hate? And hopefully you don't hate this video, but if you do happen to like it, please give us a like and then subscribe. We do provide weekly NFL picks, highlights, and sports travel. Thank you. Let's do a deep dive for the Texans and the Rams. We'll give you our prediction, plus a position matchup that we really like. Really looking forward to this one. We got the Texans, that great offense with C.J. Stroud. Had a bit of an off year for him last year. Added a couple of new weapons. We think they're going to be back, putting up some great numbers. And the Rams, of course, what have they done for the past couple of years? Won the Super Bowl a couple of years back. Returned to the playoffs after one down year in 2022. Give due props to Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, and those receivers with Puka Nacua. And then they added Devontae Adams. Should put up a lot of numbers, but we think the difference in this game is going to be defense. Look at the Texans here. We have their secondary ranked 95. We think Derek Stingley is unbelievable. They added C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles. That secondary is going to be the best in the league, in our opinion. We think the Texans take the upset here, 24-17 on the road. They're playing indoors. They're used to playing indoors. Home field is not as big of an advantage. We like the Texans here. And next, let's take a deep dive into the matchup that we think is going to make the difference. We kind of alluded to it earlier. We're going to focus on the Rams offense going up against the Texans defense. So let's first look at the Rams offense, and we've got to say we're very impressed. We think they're one of the better offenses in the league. Gave the Eagles all they could handle last year in the divisional playoff round. Came really close to winning that game in what was an impressive playoff run for the Eagles. But if you look at their adding Devontae Adams, and then to go along with Puka Nacua, we think that with Stafford as your quarterback, that's going to, and Sean McVay as your play call, it's going to be a very dynamic offense. But when we look at matchups like this, we want to look for a setup such that maybe there's an advantage on the defensive side. And we think we have one here with the Houston Texans defense. We think, again, the Texans, they're not one of those flashy teams. Even though they made the playoffs last year, they're just not mentioned with the better players. But on defense, we got Derek Stingley Jr. We think he can shut down Adams a little bit, at least limit him. And then we love the fact that they got Jalen Petrie back. He was hurt most of last year. Then they acquired C.J. Gardner-Johnson. These two are two of the hardest hitting secondary players in the NFL. And then on the other side from Stingley, you have Kamari Lassiter, who's one of the better rookies in the league last year and was rated, we think, 10th or 15th overall cornerback to go along with Derek Stingley, who's widely considered the top 1 or 2 cornerbacks in the league. So we think this defensive secondary strength is a huge advantage for the Texans. They should be able to, like we said, limit the big play, slow down Stafford. But what we really like, when you consider Stafford has the lack of mobility at his advanced age in his career, he's never really been that fast. He's not a scrambler. When you got Will Anderson on one side and Neil Hunter on the other, that's a lot of pressure coming up on the middle. So we think with the combination of the strength of the secondary and the pass rush, we think that pass rush is going to be able to force some perhaps errant throws, and that Lassiter, Stingley, and Petrie and those guys will be able to pick off a few Stafford passes. So we'd like the Rams to have 2 turnovers or more, and the Texans to take this one. And now for our lock of the week. Titans at the Broncos. We know these quarterbacks really well, having followed Cam Ward while he was here in South Florida at the University of Miami. And then Bo Nix, we followed him back when he was at Auburn, went to quite a few of those games on the Plains, and we've seen the improvement that he made since the Auburn days to where he is now. Great rookie season. If not for Jaden Daniels, he would have been considered for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But how can you imagine what Jaden Daniels did? Unbelievable rookie season. But we think this is a tough place to start for Cam Ward as a rookie quarterback. As good as we think that he is, going up against probably the first or second best pass defense in the NFL, led by Patrick Surtain II. That is a really tough unit. On the other side of the ball, we love what Bo Nix is able to do with that passing offense. The running game has shown improvement as well. But the Titans are surprisingly really good against the pass. They're not good scoring defense, but their yardage, less than 200 passing yards allowed per game. We're not sure if that's because teams might have been ahead, didn't need to pass as much. Could be an issue there. We think this is going to be a lower scoring game. We like the Broncos here. This would be our recommended survivor pick of the week. We think the Broncos are that good. Take them over the Titans. We'll look at Jacksonville. Duval hosting the Panthers. Matchup of two number one overall draft pick quarterbacks. Panthers and Jaguars both struggled last season. We saw a little bit of glimpse of hope for the Panthers late. Jaguars continue to be kind of mediocre, average. We think the offseason they benefited both teams, but we really like the Jaguars here adding Travis Hunter. We think that's going to be a big difference. We think he can step right in and play defensive back right away. And again, with a quarterback like Bryce Young, the added defensive back is going to help the Jags significantly. We look at these two quarterbacks, and both have problems. We went to one of the Jacksonville games a few years back and were stunned by the lack of accuracy by Trevor Lawrence. But we think with a better receiver, Travis Hunter, to go along with Brian Thomas, we think the Jags have a slight advantage. And what we really like here is the weather. If you haven't been to North Florida in September, it's going to be humid. That advantage goes to the Jags. Take the Jags here. Steelers and the Jets, we're going to do a deep dive analysis. We're going to take a look at one key matchup that we think will make the difference in this game. It's an interesting matchup here, obviously, as Aaron Rodgers goes back to face his former team. And then on the flip side, Justin Fields is now facing his former team as well. So we look at this one. We were wanting to pick the Jets in this one. You look at, we really liked Aaron Glenn coming over from the Lions and bringing that aggressive scheme that he has. We've always been big fans of Mike Tomlin. We look at the home field advantage. We don't think that's as much in play here because obviously Aaron Rodgers played in New York, not going to be intimidated by that environment. And we look at the overall team that the Steelers have. We just think it's going to be too much for the Jets. Also a disadvantage for the Jets. Obviously, first game for the new head coach, first game for the new quarterback. Here we go. Let's take a look at the Jets offense going up against the Steelers defense. Obviously, you have Justin Fields facing his old team from last year, which I think that gives a slight advantage to the Steelers, but we don't know how much. Curious to see how his injury responds. We just got word today that he injured, we believe, a toe. Shouldn't be too severe, but you never know. Those toe injuries like turf toe can linger for several weeks. So we're, about 6 to 7 weeks before the season. We would expect that he would play. But anyway, looking at the defense here, a couple of things to point out. Some improvements the Steelers have made. You have Darius Slay on the one corner. Then you have Jalen Ramsey in the other. We're not sure where Joey Porter Jr. is going to be. He's probably going to be the additional defensive back. Or that could be Ramsey. Not sure how they will align, but that's going to give them three really good cornerbacks in the defensive backfield. That's an advantage for the Steelers. We also like that pass rush. Of course, you got T.J. Watt on the one side. You got Highsmith on the other. You got that very impressive 3-4 defense. So we think the combination of pressure from Watt, Highsmith in that line, and the improved secondary with Slay and Ramsey, we would expect them to force Justin Fields into some quick throws, and he's not tops in the NFL in short yardage accuracy. He's actually towards the bottom of the league. We think that might end up in a couple turnovers, and that's what the Steelers do really, really well. So we think the advantage on this side is going to be the difference. We like the Steelers in this matchup and the game. So we like Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers here to win by 7, 24-17 over the Jets. And next up, we have the Bengals at the Browns. If you look at the Bengals' recent history, Joe Burrow has had a history of slow starts. That Week 1 defeat last season, hosting the Patriots, in a game many people lost their survivor pool on, that really crushed them, and ultimately that one loss cost them a playoff spot late. But to end the 2024 season, the Bengals are one of the hottest teams in the league, winning 5 of their last 6. And we would have to think that carries over here. On paper, this seems like a very one-sided matchup with the offensive dynamo that is the Bengals against an unloved Browns team for which we know very little, especially on offense. But let's not overlook that defense is consistently given Joe Burrow fits. Any team with Myles Garrett and Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator is always going to give them trouble, especially at home. But where we have questions, of course, is the Browns' offense. Who's going to start? We would expect it's going to be someone like Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco. We don't expect Shadur to start. But we think that defense is going to be able to slow down the Bengals. But we just don't know the offense. When it comes to picking games, betting, we don't go with what we don't know. We do know the Browns' defense is good. We would expect a lower scoring game here. We lean towards the under. And then we like the Bengals winning, but we wouldn't make our survivor pool pick here. We like them winning, but not covering, winning by 4. And now a deep dive for the game with the Raiders and the Patriots. Let's take a look at that one. It's another very intriguing Week 1 matchup with a lot of questions. We think both of these teams have greatly improved in the offseason. I think both are considered the top 5 most improved teams in the league. There's a lot to like in this matchup. We love the head coaches. Pete Carroll, of course, Super Bowl champion. Mike Vrabel, always very competitive head coach when he was with the Titans. And, of course, as a player, won multiple rings with the same Patriots team. We like the upside with Patriots quarterback Drake May. We love the moves they've made in the offseason, adding key players like Carlton Davis to pair with all-pro Christian Gonzalez. That gives him one of the best secondaries in the league. And then the Raiders with Geno Smith already having tight end Brock Bowers and drafting Ashton Jeanty. That should be a dynamic offense. And while we see great potential with the Raiders this season, look out for them in the AFC West. For this game, the Patriots' pass defense is going to make the difference. Geno Smith has a history of being an interception risk. We think that holds up here. Look for the Patriots to get 1 or 2 interceptions off Geno, and that is going to be the difference. We like the Patriots. And for the key matchup in this game, we're going to focus on the matchup between the Raiders' offense and the Patriots' defense. The Raiders' offense is going to be very new for 2025 season. Obviously, you have a brand new quarterback, Geno Smith, brand new potentially explosive running back with Ashton Jeanty, and then you got, of course, Brock Bowers and a few other assets there. We think it's going to take a while for that offense to gel. Obviously, the first game being on the road, we would expect that it'd be a little bit struggling. We already picked on Geno a little bit about being an interception risk, but what we really like is the Patriots' defense. You got on the one corner over here, you got Christian Gonzalez, second-team All-Pro cornerback, very impressive. And on the opposite corner, you have Carlton Davis, third, coming over from the Lions, definitely an above-average cornerback. So with those two there and what should be an improved pass rush, adding Milton Williams in the trenches in that 3-4 defense, and also Harold Landry, we think they're going to have an improved pass rush. You combine an improved pass rush with a good secondary, and what do you have? Potential for interceptions. So we like that combination. We think that's the advantage here for the Patriots in this game. And the Dolphins and Colts in the matchup of two teams that we consider playoff bubble teams, arguably good enough if things break right. Dolphins, that explosive offense, they've struggled in the past couple of years with their defense, have 2 key players coming back, and then the Colts, Anthony Richardson with flashes of brilliance but inconsistent, and now it looks like Daniel Jones is going to be the initial starter as Richardson recovers from injury. But the Colts, again, had so many close calls last year. They had this one game against the Broncos. They really had it until this one play where Taylor dropped the ball before the end zone, a few bad mistakes, and then, again, they were very competitive. We think this year their offense is going to be good. If either the quarterbacks can just take the job and be good, we think they'll be competitive and maybe make the playoffs. But for this game, because it's indoors, the Dolphins' offense is back. They've been playing together for 3 to 4 years. I think that consistency is going to be the difference. I think the Dolphins here, 27-24. Chiefs and Chargers on the Friday game from Brazil. Should be a great AFC West divisional matchup. Offended a few of the Chiefs fans, and we predicted they would only go 10-7 this year as opposed to their 15-win season last year. That's because it's very tough to win 15 games in a season. We love what they have on offense. Quarterback Mahomes is always the class of the league. They're going to get Rashee Rice back from injury. Should be a little bit better there. We picked against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl solely because that was a great matchup for the Eagles. They had a guy in Zach Bond that could shut down Travis Kelce, and they had a great pass defense. We're not sure that the Chargers have that. The secondary, Dante Jackson comes over. We think the secondary is a weakness. That's not a weakness that you want going up against Mahomes in that group. So we like the Chiefs in this one, 24-21 over the Chargers in Brazil. And the Seahawks deep dive. This is a position change also. We've got some updated information, some injury report updates that we were unaware of when we made our first pick, so we're going to change it here. But when we look at this matchup, very impressive NFC West battle. We have Nick Bosa on the 49ers and the Seahawks, the Mike McDonald's defense. We saw that team getting better and better as the season went on. We're still not sure how strong they are because they didn't have a win over a playoff opponent or a really top-tier opponent. They tend to beat up on the bad teams. And the 49ers, we don't know that much because of their injuries. They've lost a few people, and a few people still won't be back until maybe midway through the season. But we also like the fact that the Seahawks added Clint Kubiak as their OC. We think he should be the perfect mentor for Sam Darnold to kind of continue the work that Kevin O'Connell did. And, of course, the Niners with Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan, really good offense. And we're going to look at that here as a matchup, the 49ers offense versus the Seahawks. Look here at the 49ers offense against the Seahawks defense. And as we already alluded in our initial pick, we had the 49ers. We had mentioned we thought this was going to be close. We really think anytime you have a division matchup, you can almost flip a coin. It's so close. And we really don't know what to expect from both offenses, but we didn't know at the time that we came with the pick, maybe we were naive or stupid, we didn't know that Brandon Ayuk was not expected to play for week 1. So we've updated that here, and with him out, and then looking at the personnel here, again, we've got the Seattle defense. Witherspoon is a top 10 cornerback, so if he can cover Kittle, maybe he doesn't match up that way, I'm not sure, or take away Jennings, take away one of the receiving options for sure, he's that good. Then you've got an improved rush defense with Lawrence coming over. DeMarcus Lawrence is one of the better run-stopping linebackers out there. If they can improve upon that rush defense, and then we like Mike McDonald's aggressive approach. He was great when he was the DC with the Ravens. A lot of pressure, we think, and also with the 12th man home field advantage, with the only real threat being McCaffrey and Kittle. When you consider that we don't even know if Pearsall is going to be playing, we think that's an advantage for the Seahawks. We think they should be able to slow them down. So we lean towards the under in this game. And then we like the Seahawks. Close game with 21-17. We like them winning that. We like the fact they're home underdogs. That bothered us from the beginning. We saw that San Francisco was favored, and the favorite at a light number. It was 1.5, 2.5, which is Vegas telling you to take the underdog in that case. So we'll do just that and the under in this game. For more NFL videos, check out one of our latest releases, Why Your NFL Team Sucks. We're going to pick on every team here, find a weakness, at least one for all 32 teams that might keep them from going further in this year's playoffs. Giants at the Commanders, and what more can you say about the excellent rookie season? Jaden Daniels of the Commanders coming out of nowhere to reach the NFC Championship game. This was one of the biggest playoff upsets we can recall. We definitely had the Lions in this game. Didn't hurt that Jared Goff gave them a couple of interceptions like that, but they played a great game, had a great season, and now they come into week 1 hosting the Giants as heavy favorites. We have them here at 7 to 7.5 points, depending on where you look. But pay attention to the Giants in this game. Obviously, we know how great the Commanders are, but they played the Commanders close last season, and part of that was Jaden Daniels hadn't completely come into his own. But I'm curious to see how that defense does. We think that the Giants have one of the best front sevens in all of football, and if they can corral Jaden Daniels just a little bit, keep it a low-scoring game, they have a chance. Of course, don't know what they're going to do on offense. This is not a game that we would, if we were to bet this, we wouldn't put a lot on it. But we think the Commanders are going to win this, but not cover the spread. We like the Commanders here, 21-17 over the Giants. Matchup for the Commanders and the Giants. We're going to take a look at the Commanders' offense going against that very interesting Giants defense. We think they might have the best front seven in the entire league. Curious to see how they're going to use Carter Thibodeau and Brian Burns all together on that defensive front. You would think they could give Jaden Daniels fits, but with his mobility and his ability to elude the rush, we're not sure if that's as big of a factor as we originally thought. But we are also concerned for the Commanders. What's the status of Terry McLaurin? Is he going to play? Is he going to be re-signed? It could be a holdout. We're not entirely sure at this point. We're recording this in late July. But if he does play, you got McLaurin and you have Samuel. Those are two really good receivers that should command a double team. And with the Giants, they're not exactly strong in the secondary. So we think as much as we like this front seven, we think the Commanders should be, Jaden Daniels should be able to elude the pass rush. And again, if McLaurin and Samuel both play, those two weapons should be able to outmaneuver the Giants secondary. Next, we have the Bucs and the Falcons. And for this game, we're going to provide a deep dive analysis and best bet. We have a totals play and a size position. This is a really great divisional matchup, NFC South. These two teams play each other very tight regardless of where the game is. Obviously, being in Atlanta, slight edge for the Falcons there, you might think. Last year, the Buccaneers had that game won. We believe they had a 7 to 10 point lead. Somehow allowed the Falcons to come back, tie it up, and then win it in overtime. Just one of those crushing bad luck losses. We're not making excuses for the Bucs. Go watch the game. It definitely was. And then the Falcons won the other game in Tampa, so we have to think they have a little bit of an edge. But we love what the Buccaneers did in the offseason. We think they got a little bit of revenge on their mind. They were able to win the NFC South last year with tons of injuries. I mean, the Mike Evans, Chris Godwin were out together for quite a few games. Still, Baker Mayfield was able to do it. We love what Todd Bowles does on the defensive side of the ball. We think Bucky Irving balances out that offense with the running ability. Our key matchup for this game is the Tampa Bay offense going up against the Falcons defense. Let's take a quick look at the personnel matchups. An interesting matchup. We feel like we know this matchup fairly well, having been to last year's game when the Buccaneers had that in Atlanta and then let the game slip away late, went to overtime, and the Falcons won in dramatic fashion. Then when they played again in Tampa later that season, Falcons won again 31-26, sweeping the season series. Very impressive. But if you look at that game a little more closely, the Bucs were playing without key receivers, Evans and Chris Godwin. The Bucs had a bad stretch of injuries, and it was impressive to us that they were able to win the NFC South with those injuries. But now, fully healthy, you have Godwin. They've added Ibuka in the draft, gives him a third receiver to go along with Mike Evans. And then in the backfield, you have Bucky Irving, and then arguably one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. We think in most places they're rated top 10, top 5 in some spots. And then with the Falcons, they've got good secondary play from the safety, Jesse Bates. Cornerbacks, Terrell's pretty good, but we don't know that they have enough depth back there to keep up with Baker Mayfield and all the options. He's got K-Dot in his tight end. He's got the 3 receivers. He's got Bucky Irving, and again, that offensive line. We think this is going to be a one-sided matchup, and it definitely favors the Bucs. But we would look at not only the Bucs in this game. We think Michael Penix and the Falcons offense, they're going to be able to put up some numbers as well. You're playing indoors on a fast track at Mercedes-Benz. We think this is going to be a higher scoring game. If you look at last year, it was 36-21, the second matchup. We like the over here, and then we like the Bucs by 7. So take that 3-point spread. Anything under 3 for the Bucs. The NFC North matchup, the Lions at the Packers. We are really high on both of these teams. Unfortunately for the Packers, they're not playing this game, hosting the Lions in December or even late November. They have them in early September, taking away a little bit of that Lambeau home field advantage against an indoor team. And when we look at these two teams, the Lions are coming in. They've improved at cornerback. They've got Reed. They've got Aiden Hutchinson coming back. And the Packers, they lost one of our favorite players, Jair Alexander. We kind of understand why they let him go. Injury risk, hasn't really been playing that many games. But when he does play, Jair Alexander was a difference maker. So that's tough to make up for. And then also they're not going to have Christian Watson for several games to start the season. So we think just the fact that they are the healthier team, they get this game on the road at Lambeau in warmer weather, September. We like the Lions here, going to be a close one, 28-24 over Green Bay. Let's head to the Crescent City and talk about the Cardinals at the Saints. The Saints, of course, with Derek Carr's unexpected retirement, leaves them in a question mark with the quarterbacks. You've got a few that are competing for the starting job. We'd have to think they probably go with Spencer Rattler, who kind of showed flashes last season. Not sure if the first-round pick is ready to step right in. But then on the flip side, the Cardinals are quietly one of the most improved teams in the league. If you follow what they did in the offseason, not necessarily a lot of big names. They got Josh Sweat, that's a big name. You got a few others. You got Calais Campbell coming back. We think that's going to improve the locker room. But if you look at a lot of what they did on the offense, last season they showed flashes and really were one of the better bad teams in the league. What we mean by that is bad record, good performance. They just couldn't win some of the clutch games. We think them on a fast surface here with Kyler Murray running it, James Conner and Harrison, we like them here by 10 over the Saints. Let's take a look at the matchup for the Cardinals and the Saints. We're going to focus on just one side of the ball here with the Cardinals offense versus the Saints defense. We look at the numbers. We're going to start from the left-hand side of the screen with the rush offense. So that's 144 per game, high number, 5.3 yards per rush. That's exceptional for the Cardinals. And you go to the very bottom down there, rush defense. We have it highlighted there. The Saints allow 141 a game and that high 4.9, almost 5. Again, these are last year's stats, but they should still hold up to start the season. Shifting to the other side of the form, we've got the passing numbers. Yards per game, 214. Not that great. Yards per attempt, 7.1. That's respectable. So we like that number. And then at the very bottom, again, the corresponding pass defense for the Saints, 238. That's a high number. And then that 7.3, that number's even higher than what the Cardinals can do. And then if we look at some key personnel here, you got Murray, who's very fast. We're playing on a fast surface in the Caesar Superdome. It's their artificial turf, very fast. You have Marvin Harrison over here. We don't know if any of the cornerbacks for the Saints are going to be able to slow down the passing attack. You also have McBride here, who's one of the better tight ends in the league, to go along with Harrison, Conner out of the backfield. Yeah, both the matchups and the stats favor the Cards in this game. All right, now we have our deep dive feature of the game of the week. This is the game in which we're going to show you our process, show you some of the key numbers that we look at and the way that we think when we do these predictions. It's not just arbitrary. We don't just throw the dart at the dartboard and pick. We actually have a process, and we'll show you what we do here. But this is the game we wanted to feature because we thought this was probably the best game of the playoffs in 2024, 2025. We think the Ravens and Bills are two of the best teams in the AFC. We think they're 1-2 in the AFC, with apologies to the Chiefs. But in the playoff game, plays like this, where Lamar just lost the ball, they ended up losing 3 turnovers. They outgained the Bills by over 125 yards, but losing the turnover battle 3-zip, you're not going to win a game. Statistics show 92% of the time you're going to lose, and this was key. They also did not have all-pro wide receiver Zay Flowers. I think he's Pro Bowl, not all-pro, but that was key. That was the one major weapon, and then Mark Andrews dropping that tying 2-point conversion. But let's take a look at the Buffalo offense. We think that obviously has to start with MVP Josh Allen. We give him a 94 for that. But the questions we have there would be the running backs. We think James Cook is a little bit unhappy with his contract. And then the receivers. We don't see anyone in that group that really worries us. Then if you look on the flip side, if you take a look at the Baltimore Ravens defense, what they just did acquiring Jair Alexander, we're going to bump that secondary ranking up. We did this before the Jair Alexander signings. We think that secondary is going to be top tier. We think they should be able to slow down those average to slightly above average Buffalo Bills receivers. We think that's a huge edge. Then on the other side, you look at what the Ravens can do offensively. We do think that Lamar Jackson's the best quarterback in the league. Sorry, reigning MVP. We think what Lamar gives you from a running and a passing combination, and then you've got Derrick Henry, provided he hasn't lost a step and slipped a little bit. We don't think that he has. If you look at last year, what they did in the regular season, they beat the Bills 35-7. We think that's going to turn more into that, a game like that. We like the Ravens in this one in the upset. The Bills are favored by 1.5. This reminds us a little bit of the Super Bowl line. Chiefs were favored by 1.5. We had the Eagles winning all along. We think we like the better running team. We like the better defense. Those are 2 factors that we look at in this one. So go with the Ravens as the underdog in this game. Next, let's do our deep dive analysis, look at the stats, and see how we arrived at this score projection. All this is covered in our book, Winning Football Betting. Free copy for all members. Feel free to join up. But let's take a look here. This is the overall worksheet that we use. We're going to break it down for you. The first step here is to calculate what we think the Vegas line is going to be. We come out to a number of Buffalo 27, Baltimore 24. This is a very simple formula that Vegas uses. If you look at the opening line, it is exactly that. It's Buffalo minus 2.5. Trying to get you to bet on the favorite, by the way, a little trick that they do. So next we're going to break down the yardage analysis. Just to note that because of that formula, the home team is almost always favored. So if we like the road team, we need to look deeper at the numbers. Here we've got the Baltimore rush offense, 187 yards a game. The Bills allow 115. Those are the columns there. Buffalo, 131 rushing. Baltimore is the number 1 rush defense in the league, 80. They're going to shut Buffalo down a little bit. On the passing side, a key number to look at is the far column, 244. That's what Baltimore allows, but that number is offset by the fact that the secondary improved quite a bit in the second half, and then they have in the offseason added Jair Alexander, a true shutdown cornerback. So what we do with these numbers, based on what we have, we're not going to give you our formula, but this is what our result was. We feel that it benefits Baltimore on both sides. We give them a 6-point edge here. That takes away 3 from Buffalo, adds 3 to Baltimore. Our final score projection is Baltimore 27, Buffalo 24. And for the Monday night special, we think they've got a great matchup here. Division matchup, NFC North, Vikings and the Bears again. Best division in football, should be the case for the second straight year. But we think this year it's going to be strong from top to bottom. We don't see a weak link here, provided the Bears show up with Ben Johnson and Caleb takes the next step, which we definitely expect that he will. But in this matchup, we think this is great. We think it's headlined by 2 great coaches. You got Coach of the Year Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings, who did wonders with Sam Darnold. Then you got the rookie, or the first-year starter, not a rookie, but he was out all of last year, J.J. McCarthy starting for the Vikings. So it should be a really interesting game. We think the Vikings overall have a deeper roster, but our questions with McCarthy being his first start, worried there. And we do think Caleb and the Bears are going to take the next step and improve with the improvements on the offensive line, adding more weapons. We think this game is going to be exciting, close. We like the Bears here, 28-24 over the Vikings on the Monday night debut.
That's all for this time. Thank you for joining. Please subscribe to our channel, and we look forward to sharing our future videos with you.